Right, so the first one is personality development. When I was a teenager, in my early teens, or even in my 20s, early 20s, 2021, I didn't really have my own opinions. I didn't really have my own reasonings. I was unable to logically justify my own beliefs. And I feel like as I've grown into my mid-20s, I'm 25 now, this is the biggest change that I've noticed in my life. I cannot get behind something that's illogical, essentially. And if you cannot get to a certain belief or an opinion without proper education and logical reasoning, I am going to yeet out that belief from my life. I wasn't like that when I was a teenager, so I can safely say that teenagers are pretty stupid. Source, I was one, right? So that's the biggest and major change that I've noticed in my life. And in this video, this pretty raw, uncut video, I'm going to be talking about a lot of these changes. There's not going to be a lot of editing. I just spent all my editing juice in the Afterlife video. You can go check it out on my channel. Just wanted to do a heartfelt talking video where I can just relay some of these profound changes that I've noticed in my life as I've grown up into my mid-20s, and maybe some of you resonate. I know I used to watch a lot of videos like this when I was 14, when I was 16, and I used to think, man, what are all these people talking about? I'm never going to be like that. I'm not going to have these, I'm not going to have these mannerisms, and I'm never going to be like that guy. Trust me, you're going to be like that guy. I used to think all of that as well when I was a kid, but I don't think that anymore. And on the subject of that, this is just going to be that type of talking video, so you can put it in the background and do whatever you were doing. Anyways, let's move on to point number 2, is opinions. I've already talked about this, but I want to expand it a little bit more. Let me check. What is my camera saying? It's fine. Yeah, so I want to talk about opinions. When I was an early teenager, or even a late teenager, a lot of my beliefs were not really sound. They were not really logical, or I didn't have the education behind it. I didn't have the balls to say that I don't have enough information or research or education about this topic, so I don't have an opinion. No, I just had to have an opinion about everything and anything. I'm not like that anymore, right? So if something is not going to make logical sense to me, I'm not going to get behind that idea. And this just the biggest change I've seen in my life happen. So number 3, which stems from that, is judgmental attitude. Got a little list on my phone here, so I'm just reading the notes from here. I used to be, when I was a teenager, I didn't understand the world. I didn't have a personality of my own. I used to be very, very judgmental. I used to look at the world in this black and white, moral black and white. There's also a reason for that, but I'll come back to that later in the religion part of this. But I used to be crazy judgmental about everything, right? I'm also one of those people who were really skinny when I was a kid, so I was picked on a lot. I was bullied, and I used to just hear comments about my skinniness from everybody. People in my family, my friends, people just used to make jokes about it and not think much about it. And that translated into me putting that forward, where I would look at a fat person and I'll just say, oh, you're fat. You're probably not working out. You're probably not doing what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. And it's so easy to judge people like that and not know what's going on in their life. And this sort of changed when we tried for my mom to lose weight, right? So my mother is overweight. She's kind of obese, and due to the age problems that she's getting, we have tried everything, but it's so difficult for her to lose weight. If she loses weight, she gets sick. If she cuts out a certain group of foods, she gets sick, right? She can have internal bleeding. She can have so many issues, and there's just so much emotional trauma that she's carrying, which causes her to go on a spiral and then, eat that it's really, really difficult to maintain discipline for her. And just this understanding of what a person has to emotionally go through to make the change, to make the decisions that they make in life, has kind of given me this idea that I cannot just go out and straight judge everybody for that. And I usually was very, very outspoken about my judgmentalism. Even if I'm judging somebody now, I'm not going to at least say something that might offend them or that might put our relationship in a difficult position. I have the maturity now, which I didn't used to have before, to kind of stop myself, to kind of catch myself from making a comment without really understanding what's going on in the other person's life. So I'm not really that judgmental in my attitude anymore. I might judge somebody from the inside, but still I wouldn't point out unless I know the reasoning. So the reasoning is very important for me now. Next is number 4 point, comfortable in my own skin. So like I already said, I've been a skinny kid since forever. I was sort of malnourished in my really early life. I didn't really realize this until very, very soon from now. That I just didn't really used to eat healthy, and it's because we had this certain culture in the area where I grew up where people just didn't eat healthy, and a lot of them were malnourished as well. They didn't really understand that, but since I was the kid, I wasn't really eating those type of healthy foods. I also had my own issues with taste as a kid. I'll come back to food later, but all of these resulted in me being very skinny and being picked off for it. And I used to, Jesus, that's my cat. I used to be really offended at all of this. I used to be very insecure about my weight. I used to be very insecure about my height. Everything about me, I used to be very insecure about. But as I've grown up, I've realized that everybody has insecurities. Literally everybody. Your boss, your wife, your best friends, the people in your life who you think are perfect, the jacks, the jocks, all of them, everybody has insecurities. And human beings are very complex when it comes to insecurities. So I have learned through trial and error and through a lot of patience to accept myself for who I am. And this goes back to the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi. I saw this TED talk, I'll try to link it down below if I remember, where the essential idea is to find beauty in imperfection. And it just really resonated with me. And as I've grown up, I've learned to accept the insecurities. I've learned to accept that our flaws are the exact thing that makes us that make us human, right? So I'm not uncomfortable in my skin anymore. And this translates to clothing as well. I used to be, when I was a kid, even if it was freezing cold, I just wouldn't wear a hat because I thought it made me look stupid. I wouldn't wear a cap because I thought it made me look weird. I don't know why. I would think that. I wouldn't wear gloves and have my fingers freeze. And I'm like, no, I don't like gloves. It makes me look weird. And now that I've grown up, it's so crazy how things work out. I'm the type of person, unless I'm going on a meeting or in an office setting, I'm just gonna dress the most comfortable. If I need gloves, I'm gonna wear gloves, right? But I live in a hot part of the world, so if it's not an office setting, if it's not an official setting, I'm just gonna dress the most comfortable. I don't care about how I look anymore. I don't really care about my dressing. And I've realized if you see someone who's dressed sharp as hell, only then you notice and say something, holy shit, that this person is really well dressed. Other than that, you don't really look at or care about people's clothing. It's very weird to me that I don't really care about clothing anymore as much as I used to do it before. I guess I'm just comfortable in my own skin. So I'll move on to I forgot what point it is, but I think it's 5th, is patience and moodiness. So, right? we know that teenagers are young, their blood is boiling, and they can get angry or throw fights or tantrums at any time. I used to be like that as well. I had this crazy amount of resentment, anger, wrath, all of that in my life. And I used to think it was pretty normal. I would justify all of that as well with just, illogical reasons. Oh, you've made me feel really bitter. Now I'm gonna fuck you up. So I've seen that I have a lot more patience for most things in my life. The only thing I don't have patience for is for people that waste my time. So this translates into road rage, a lot of road rage for me. It's still something I'm working on. It hasn't really changed in the way it should have. But I can give somebody the grace of the benefit of the doubt. And I have the emotional maturity to not let how I'm feeling inside to be on the outside. Even if I'm really angry at someone on the road rage, I'll just give you an example to better illustrate my point. So I was turning this curve. It's a pretty tight curve, but you have to kind of keep your car over to the other side of the curb because it's a really sharp curve. So you have to kind of come up on the other side a little bit. Right? You have to kind of come up and then take the curve. So I was up. I had my indicator going. And I just, for once in my life, I didn't really shoulder check who was on my side. I just looked in my mirror. My mirror was clear. So I was like, okay, there's nobody. And I'm just turning. And of course, because I didn't shoulder check for once in my life, there's a biker who hits my car. So, well, I moved a little bit forward. I stopped my car on the curb. I come out. Now, the general reaction for anybody is going to be, who the are you? Why did you hit my car? Right? But I saw, I've seen in my life that you have to de-escalate situations to get to a point. Right? If you want to fight, it's fairly easy to let things get out of hand. And if you want to work a solution out, it's pretty difficult, but you have to de-escalate. So if my teenage self would handle this situation, I'll just get out of the car, I'll take my slippers off and throw it at his face. I'll probably start punching him right away. That you did a lot of this expensive damage to my car. I'm just gonna, rip you off even if it was nothing. I looked at my car, there was barely a scratch. We were safe, he was safe, but he was startled, I was startled, right? And the first thing I said to him is, are you all right? It was like so different for him because he was expecting me to start shouting as well. And I just get out of the car and I was like, are you okay? Because I'm in a car, right? Nothing's going to happen to me. But he was on a bike, so if he could fall, he could have a lot of injuries. So I have this empathy unlocked in me as I've grown up, that I can just go to some other person and I can see their pain, I can see their startling, I can see their adrenaline, and I could just work out, even through my anger and through my wrath, where I want to break this person's face. Still, the first thing I said to him, are you okay? Are you hurt? And he calmed down and he accepted his mistake. So this is probably one of the biggest changes that happened to me as well. I still feel the same amount of anger, if not much, but I have so much more control over it. I used to be very handsy. If the siblings, me and my sisters, my brother, if we fought, my late brother, if we fought, I'd just throw hands all the time. And now if I'm angry, I stay quiet. So through working from that emotional maturity, I think is one of the biggest changes that's happened to me since growing up. Okay, so number 6 is religion. So I grew up in a Muslim household and I was not religious, even through growing up. So as a Muslim, you have to pray 5 times a day, you have to read the Quran, and you have to do a lot of things that, the religion tells you to do. You have to abstain from everything that the religion tells you not to do. So when I was growing up,
the only Islam that I had was the one given to me by my parents. And it didn't make any sense to me. It just seemed riddled with culture. So instead of coming closer to the religion, I was turning away from it, right? I was going towards that agnostic side, towards that, not atheism side, but more agnostic side, like in the sense that, what is this? This isn't right. This religion doesn't make sense. Until I studied the religion myself. Now, I'm not claiming to be a scholar of Islam, but I worked my way through. I had to read the Quran myself. I had to read a lot of the scriptures and the big questions. I had to riddle through them myself. And even if I'm left, I think Royce da 5'9" put it really well in one of his songs. What was that line? I'm searching for answers, but I'm left with questions. Something like that. But that resonated with me so much that even if I'm left with questions, I'm kind of satisfied because I've studied everything through. I've tested it. It makes logical sense to me. And if you ask any devotee Christian, they'll say the same to you as well. You know, that they grew up in a Christian household and they didn't really like the culture. So the problem when it comes to religion is culture, and it took me a really long time that the Islam I was being fed to by my parents was riddled with culture. And culture is not compatible with Islam, but Islam is compatible with a lot of other cultures. So we were raised in this sort of culture where the Islam we had was borrowed, and it had really some different things, really opposite of what the scriptures were saying. So I would read all of these things where the people are supposed to do something, but they're not doing it, and it was turning me away from the religion. But when I studied it for myself, I logically tested it, and everything made sense to me. And I was like, okay, so I had to do my own study to find out what religion I want to do. And I haven't really studied all the religions, obviously, in detail. I'm only 25. But Islam makes a lot of logical sense to me now. So that's, I think, one of the bigger changes as well, where I had to come to it myself, right? So moving on to number 7 is seeking answers. I don't take anything at face value anymore. I need to study everything. I need to research everything. And even facts and figures, I need to see the statistics, how they were taken, like what was the methodology, what was the population. Like, I have to get to the bottom of something to believe it, because nothing surprises me anymore. But because of the things that's happened in my life, I think a lot of people in their mid-20s can say the same, but nothing really surprises you anymore, especially if you look at the world, look at what's happening right now. But how do I want to put this? Data doesn't make sense to me unless I go through it and satisfy this insatiable thirst for logical reasoning. Right, so I have to fact check everything. And in seeking answers, I'm more often left with more questions. And that's fine to me. I've learned to accept that. When I was a young kid, and I was in my teens, I used to think that answers are everything. I have to follow this. I have to work this through, and I would just work myself to death over it. I would go crazy as to why I can't find the answer, and I've realized that the answers will come to you when it's the right time, and you don't have to go crazy about everything. You don't have to understand 100% of everything to know that it is right or is it wrong. Your gut feeling tells you a lot of that. So I've learned to accept that. I've learned to trust my gut feeling, because more often than not, it's right. And your moral compass can dictate a lot of that. So trusting data is something that requires going through the evidence first, right? So that's one of the changes as well. The next one, I'm going to take a little bit of a detour here. Now, I know that most of the scholars would say that music is haram in Islam. It's forbidden. And yes, I do agree to some part of it. I think most of music is haram. It's forbidden, because look at the pop culture. What are they talking about? They're all talking about, well, you know what they're talking about. I don't want to say those words. But I feel like if you take something and you put a positive message in it, you you consult God in a way, and take something and put some effort into giving something positive away and taking the negative, I think then it doesn't really necessarily have to be haram. Obviously, my research is lacking. I'm not giving a final fatwa on anything, but music is something that I have really have had difficulty to accept that it's completely haram. So, I like music. I don't like all music, of course, but I do like it. And I just want to talk about how my likeness of it has changed. So when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I used to like crazy music, like all the club music, which is, definitely haram. I absolutely used to adore dubstep for some reason. I don't know why I did that. I really don't know. I tried to listen to dubstep again now as I've grown up. I was like, what the hell is this? How did I like this? So biggest difference. I used to want music to be bumpy all the time. I was like, give me some boom bap, give me some beats. I need to bop my head around. I need to listen to music, the instruments and all that. But now, as I've grown up, I listen to the lyrics. I don't care a lot about the music. I do care about it, the instrumental part of it. But I found myself more often than not resonating with lyrics so much more. I don't need the boppy songs. I don't need that anymore. I can listen to slow music now, which when I used to see grown-ups around me listening to slow music, slow and lyrical music, I was like, man, come on, you guys don't even know anything about music. But as I've grown up, I've seen that I've become those elder people. I've become those adults who listen to slow music and can find the solace in that and can find the comfort with the resonating with the lyrics. Now I listen to that type of music much more. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a metalhead. I still like absolute fast music, grungy 90s sound. I still love all of that. But I find myself more often than not listening and actually really enjoying the slower and more lyrical sound much more now. So I guess that's the really biggest change. I'll give you a specific example of that. When I was growing up, I grew up on a lot of rap, so Eminem was definitely my top. But as I've grown up, I like Royce's music much more than Eminem's music. I think he's a better musician than Eminem, certainly, but the way he writes his lyrics and the way he raps it, and the type of message he says and the way he says it, I resonate with it much more now than I did with Eminem. It's a really specific example. It really is subjective as well, but I think it definitely has to do something with age, where now I'm old enough to understand the reasoning and the motivation, the coping behind Royce's writing much more than I do with Eminem's music. So just one example in hip hop. I do listen to a lot of other music as well, as I've already said. And that brings us to the next point. I forgot what number I'm at. So next one is taste in terms of food. So growing up, I was very limited with my taste palette. I didn't like sour foods. I didn't like, did I say I didn't? I absolutely used to adore sour foods. I absolutely used to adore sweet foods. And I was crazy about spice. If I was eating something, it had to be spicy as hell. If my tongue isn't burning, it isn't spicy enough. And I didn't like a lot of the vegetables. I didn't really like garlic, onion, all of these things. I still don't like them that much, but I hated tomatoes. Now, I don't exactly love tomatoes. I can't just eat a tomato raw. It has to be cooked and it has to be eaten with something. But now tomato gives a lot of flavor to me. It's like a new flavor in my tongue has been unlocked. Don't get me wrong, I still absolutely hate garlic. But I can stand onion now. I couldn't stand the taste of onion, but I can stand it now. I absolutely hated a lot of vegetables. I don't hate them anymore. And yeah, I think that's the biggest change in my life. I used to be like that. I can eat fast food every day. I can't eat fast food anymore every day now. I just can't. It makes me sick to the stomach. It makes me feel weird. It makes me feel wonky. Yeah, and now I cannot handle spice. I don't have any tolerance for spice anymore. So it's funny how things change sometimes, right? I used to be the guy who needed the most spice, and now I cannot handle any spice. People, especially my family people, will just be eating around the table, and they'll all be fine. They'll be enjoying their food, and I'll have a runny nose. I'll be breathing heavily. I'll be biting my tongue again and again. Trying to eat something sweet or trying to drink water, thinking, oh, it's so spicy. I have zero tolerance for spice now, which is crazy. I don't like to eat sweet foods anymore as well. This could be because I've done a lot of gym and bodybuilding, so I've kind of cut all of the sweets. So it's weird. When you eat a lot of sweet, you want to eat more sweet. When you cut it, you don't want to eat it anymore. So I'm at that point where I don't like sweets that much. Once in a while it's fine. I'm still crazy for ice cream. Nothing beats ice cream. I'm sorry, chocolate lovers, but nothing beats ice cream. I'm still crazy about chocolate too, but I don't need it every day, right? I don't need it every weekend. Just once in a while is fine for me. Okay? So the next one, I also missed something in food, is green chili. One of the foods that I absolutely hated. I'll just look at it and I'll just pick it apart from my food and I'll just take it away from my plate. Now, if it's cut in really small pieces, I absolutely love the taste of green chili. I know I don't have any spice tolerance, so it has to be a mild green chili. It can't be the crazy ones. And I'll absolutely enjoy it for some reason. It's crazy, the changes. Alright, next is closed doors. When I was a teenager, I needed a lot of privacy for obvious reasons, and also for, I don't know, it was just a mental thing where if a door isn't properly closed, it will blow my mind. Especially the maid would come in, clean the room, she'll go out and not close the door. And it would piss me off. It would absolutely piss me off. I needed doors to be closed. Now, I don't care. In fact, sometimes, if it's really warm inside, I'll just open the door and open the windows. I'm like, yeah, let air flow through. And when I was a kid, I used to see my dad do this all the time. And I was like, why are you not closing the doors? This is so weird. And I was like, when I grow up, I'm never going to be the adult that likes that likes open doors. I'm just going to close everything. I'll close all the doors. I don't know what to say. It's weird. It's weird. I've grown up into the person who likes open doors more than closed now. Unless I'm recording something, of course. Alright. Next is a bit more on the mental side. So, the ability to say no. When I was a kid, I didn't really have a personality. I didn't know what I stood for. Of course, I didn't have any education with mental health, so I didn't know if I'm being manipulated, if I'm being abused. And I didn't know when to say no. If someone is disrespecting my personal space, my personal boundaries, I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know when to say no. And this is one of the biggest changes. I've said no to bosses. I've said no to clients. I've said no to a lot of people that I didn't have the balls to say no to. I've said no to my best friends too. Even if they needed me really much, and if I wasn't doing well, I had to put myself first. I have the balls to say no now, and I've done that multiple times, and I can safely say to you that it's a muscle. So the more you say no, the more you'll be able to say no. And if you just keep thinking about it and not take any action, never say no, you're never going to be able to say no. And, well, I'll come back to that later. We'll just move on for now. Self-respect. This point is where I'll come to what I was about to say, is that since I have my own personality, I have dignity for that as well. I have respect for what I stand for. I have respect for my experiences. I have respect for my opinions because I've worked them through. Yeah? So, if someone is challenging that in a healthy way, that is very stimulating for me, and I like that. If someone is disrespecting, making comments, or violating my personal boundaries... Okay, my screen just turned off. Okay, my camera died for some reason. I guess it recorded for 30 minutes and decided to just turn itself off again. So, here I am, recording it again. So, alright. Yeah, I was talking about self-respect, and dignity is something that is really valuable to me. And if somebody decides to disrespect that, then I'm going to have a really severe reaction. I'm going to have a really severe problem with that. So I do take a stand for my self-respect. I didn't have the guts to do this when I was a kid, but now I always, maybe not always, but most of the always times, I put myself first. I see if I'm comfortable or not. Can I do this or not? Yeah. I put myself first, and then everything second. And I think it's so important to do that. I need to see if my mic is working. Hello? Yeah, it is. Good. So, a lot of the times, some people are gaslighting you or manipulating you, and when I was a kid, I didn't really, I didn't have the lens in my eyes to recognize that. I didn't have the lens in my eyes to recognize that, to see through people. I have a lot of that lens now because I have a personality, I know what I stand for, and well, I'm a communications teacher. I teach communication now, so I have this ability to see through what people are doing. So if anybody is violating my personal boundaries or my self-respect, if someone is making snarky comments about me, or about my work or anything like that, I can just see through that, and I can tell them that they need to shut the hell up. I didn't have the self-respect when I was a kid. I used to let people walk all over me, and through trial and experience, I've noticed in my life that if you hand somebody a hand, they're going to take your entire arm. And people love to walk all over you. So you have to have really strong personal boundaries. You have to have really strong understanding of your own values and your own boundaries so that you don't let anybody violate them. And alhamdulillah, I do have that now. So the next point is body changes. Hair and tummy is the main that stands out to me. So I have hair growing up in all the different places in my body. And it's gotten to the point where if I don't get my beard trimmed in a month, I look absolutely homeless. I was looking homeless, but just past weekend I've gotten a nice trim, so it's all looking maintained. It's looking good. Same with the hair on my head and all the other places. The biggest change in my body, I think, is my tummy. So I've always had this issue with food, where I am allergic to a lot of things. I can't eat eggs. I can't eat cucumber. I can't eat beetroot. I can't eat peanut butter. And I didn't really know these things when I was a kid, and I used to eat them anyway and have the issues that I had with those. But when I grew up and I realized, oh, so these are the foods that are causing me these problems. So I had to cut them off, which means there's not a lot of options for me in terms of good nutritional value, so I eat a lot of shitty foods from time to time, even if I don't want to. It's just that I have nothing else to eat, so I'll eat them, and this has caused my stomach to grow up a little bit. more than I'd like. Even though I'll still work out, I run twice a weekend. I run twice a week. I'm in the gym 6 days a week, unless my back is hurting, because I have a back injury too. But other than that, I'm always in the gym. Still, I've been trying for the past 4 months to cut down my body weight, which I have successfully done. But because I haven't really locked in that keto that hardly, it's just like my stomach is so stubborn to leave that belly fat. I have this lower tummy fat which just doesn't go. I've seen my arms shrink to 2 inches, and I haven't lost any inch in my belly fat. So this really pisses me off, but it is one of those changes that if you are a young person, if you're gaining weight like crazy, it is gonna be very hard to shed it when you grow up. So be careful about the way you put on weight. Be very careful about it. Be very mindful about it. So another one, the next point is mental. I understand my parents now. When I was a kid, I used to think my parents hate me. They don't let me do anything. Every 14 and 16 and 12-year-old boy thinks the same. I'm guilty of that too. I'm guilty of thinking that. And it is not true. It took me a long time to understand that yes, some people do have abusive parents and their moms are absolutely narcissistic or their dads are absolutely narcissistic. But my parents were so strict with me growing up is because I just didn't realize how shitty of a society we lived in. There are predators, sexual harassers, rapists, serial killers, crazy amounts of dangerous people just roaming the streets, roaming all around us. And that used to scare me up to a point. I've grown up to the point where I'm not scared of that anymore, but I understand the strictness that my parents had inflicted on me to a certain degree, right? Obviously, they're sort of boomers, so they had their own way of parenting. They didn't really know much. They weren't really that educated in terms of parenting, and I think I can do a better job in parenting than them. Of course, I'm going to make my own mistakes too, but I understand them. I have empathy for them, and I can forgive their mistakes now, because now when I think about having children, I know that children are so gullible and they need so much work, so much guidance, that until my children are 17, 18, 16, or like big enough to make their own decisions, I decide what they wear, I decide where they go, I decide where they spend their money, I decide who they hang out with, I decide when they cannot leave the house, I decide all of that until they're grown up to make their own educated, reasonable decisions. I would do the absolute same. I know it sounds shitty, but it's so important, and I'm glad that I understand my parents now, much more than I ever did. One of the reasons I do is the next point. I have a cat. So I've had many cats, but the recent one I have has given me a lot of this sense of what parents go through. When she got sick, I felt absolutely helpless. I felt so powerless, and it really kind of messed me up, and it gave me sort of this insight on how much your parents love you, and when you get sick or when you do something really stupid, they feel so vulnerable, they feel so lost. It's so easy to feel all of that. And since I've felt all of that, I have a deeper understanding and appreciation for everything my parents have been through. And I can forgive their flaws in that light. Okay, so the next one, trigger warning, I'm going to talk about depression. So, for the most part of my teenage life, I have dealt even in my childhood life as well. I didn't realize it before. I didn't know what I was feeling was called depression. Even if I did hear the word depression, I didn't know what it actually meant until way later in my life. So now that I do understand it, and I've kind of worked it through, my depression is episodic. So it comes in episodes. And it's very much linked to my back pain as well, to my injury. Whenever I feel a lot of back pain, I feel a lot of depression as well. So I just understand it now. And it's easy for me. I mean, it's not easy, but it's doable for me. Like, it's workable to work through my suicidal thoughts and through all of the things I know that I'm losing my mind here, and I just need to stop these negative thoughts. Like, I can navigate my depressive episodes with much more maturity and clarity than I was a kid. I used to idealize suicide when I was 17, because I was sort of crazy. I needed help, but I do understand it now, so it's very easy for me to work it out now. I don't really need professional help in that sense anymore. I can kind of work most of it myself. YouTube has helped a lot me a lot in that area. And just a deeper understanding of depression kind of gives you a lot of empathy too. I used a lot of arrogance to kind of get over my negative thoughts and my negative feelings. And it took a lot of time for me to understand that depression is just an involuntary addiction to negative emotion. And when you do certain things that don't create negative emotions, that create positive emotions, you have to strike that balance. And you have to use every inch of energy that you have left. Don't get me wrong, I have still days where I'm absolutely powerless over my decision making, where I want to spend the entire day on the bed. And I do have those days. I do spend my entire day on bed sometimes. But it's easy for me to walk through it because I understand it so much deeper now than I was a kid. And this has obviously given me a lot of empathy for other people who go through mental health issues. Back then, I used to be like, haha, mental health issue, haha, duh, who goes through that? Nobody, even though I was going through depression. Funny. Just so funny how life works out, right? Like life just laughs in your face, is what I feel. Anyways, next point is back pain and body aches. When I was a kid, I used to feel indestructible. I was so energetic. Even if I was feeling depressed, as a kid, I had a lot of energy. Now, if I'm having a depressive episode, I don't have any energy. I cannot leave my bed for at least a day. Like, it lasts a day. It comes in phases, but the intensity of it, where I cannot leave my bed, is at least one day. Yeah, so I don't have all that physical energy anymore. Most of that stems from the back pain, the back injury that I have. I don't have the motivation to do the things I thought I would be doing when I was a kid. And again, a lot of that stems from the back pain, the back injury, which I'm getting treatment for, but it's so difficult to find a good doctor and to have a good treatment for that. I've tried chiropractors. That shit didn't work. Maybe I didn't find a good chiropractor. Nothing like that I see on YouTube. They were doing different things, but it didn't work. Then I went to this traditional person. We call them Desi in my country. And this person just literally pulled my discs back into place. It was very painful, but it helped me feel better for a year. And now it's kind of coming back, so I'm going to get that treatment again. But still, along with that, a lot of stiffness, a lot of body aches, just things that don't make sense. Why is it happening? Like, my ankle will just start hurting for no reason. I'll just get whiplashed from twisting in a weird way. Maybe I'm stretching my neck like this, and I'll just get a whiplash out of nowhere. So a lot of these weird body aches happen now. Maybe they did happen when I was a kid, but I didn't notice them because I had so much energy. And now I'm just, I feel kind of helpless sometimes in that department of, why the hell is my shoulder hurting? I've had this weird issue. It didn't happen this winter, but it was happening for like 4 or 5 years constantly where I just have pain in my left shoulder for no reason. Like, was it right or was it left? I don't know. One of my shoulder would just hurt. It would just hurt. Like, I don't know why. And I'll just do some video exercises that I'll find on YouTube, and they'll work. And I'll feel better. But then again, next year, it'll hurt again. Same place. I just don't understand a lot of my body aches. But they do happen now, which is weird. Next one is a little bit different. I'm a gamer. I absolutely love gaming. You can see it on my channel as well. But gaming just doesn't feel the same to me. I think it's pretty obvious. I can work out a few reasons as to why. When I was a kid, I think games were very well finished. They were finished products. They were a complete package, a complete experience. Nothing of this early access beta shit. Right? It was a complete package every time. And I was just in this sense of freedom, which I don't have anymore, because now I have to worry about rent. I have to worry about, oh shit, I'm 25. I need to get in a relationship. I've never been in a relationship. I need to find someone. I need to get married. I need to afford a house. I need to, since I have decided not to do a job anymore, so I have to build a business that makes money, and I'm still working on that, but I'm still broke for the most part, so it kind of pisses me off that I'm in this stage of life where a lot of my peers or other people are successful. But I do have this understanding now that I didn't in my early 20s, in my 21, where everybody's on their own timeline, and as long as you're working hard with reasonable effort towards the results, you will get somewhere in life. So I can give myself that grace as well. What was I talking about? Yeah, gaming. I was talking about gaming. Sorry about the tangent. So, since a lot of the things in life are not the same, since I have to worry about all of that, I don't have this sense of freedom anymore. Before, it was just school, right? It's just school and homework, and you can skip it. You can kind of cram everything one night before the exam and still pass, and not have to worry about your grades that much. Even if I had to worry about my grades that much, I kind of just didn't care. I've always struggled in school. I may have undiagnosed autism or ADHD, but I'm not sure about that. So, since it's not professionally diagnosed, I wouldn't say I haven't, but still, I felt like I haven't. I don't know. But I've struggled with all of that. And in that area of my life, back then, it was an escape for me. Like I can play video games for hours and hours and hours. I don't really have back pain either, so I could just sit on my chair and I would just play for hours and hours. Like I remember playing 4 or 5 hours every day without a break. I had so much capacity to play video games too. Now, if I play video games more than say 2.5 hours a day, I just feel lost. I feel like, what am I doing with my life, you know? So a lot of that mental toll of not being able to pay rent right now kind of takes over. And also, games are not just that enjoyable anymore, I feel like. A lot of my early days in gaming were mostly single-player experiences. And now I play a lot of multiplayer games, which causes a lot of frustration when you're not having a good day, when you're not getting enough kills, or when you're not getting enough wins. So that competitiveness comes with a lot of ups and downs, right? So there's that has changed. So ultimately, gaming just doesn't feel the same, right? It doesn't feel like an escape, and I can't play more than 2-3 hours a day, even if I do my best. And realistically, I only truly enjoy gaming on the weekends, right? Where I have to set these boundaries for myself. And Dr. Scott Elias has kind of helped a lot to understand. I'll link his channel in my description, but his channel has helped me a lot in terms of understanding how you need that disciplined life to make things feel better. Like if I'm playing games 6 days a week, they're not going to feel good to me. If I'm playing it 2-3 days a week, then I can actually truly enjoy it without having the insecurity of, oh, I need to work. Oh, I need to work on my business. Oh, I need to handle clients, or I should be making something productive. So ultimately gaming just doesn't feel the same to me anymore with all of these reasons combined. Okay, so the next one is how I feel about women. In my late teens and early 20s, 2021, I was this red pill shrill, right? I used to think Peterson was profound. Jesus, the way things work, man. Right. I was in this MGTOW, women-hating, red pill sort of circle. And I don't know why. I don't know why it was so profound or exciting to listen to all of these beta cocks. Now that I'm 25, I've gotten over all of that. I think a lot of that stems from spending a lot of time with my mom, which I didn't really do before, but now I'll just go and stand in the kitchen, see her working, and I'll just strike a conversation with her, make her unlock the past trauma, and just kind of discuss that. I feel like sometimes I've been a therapist to my mom as well. She's discussed a lot of her past trauma with me, so me and my mom have this crazy deep relationship where we can talk about anything and everything, right? So, and we have these deep conversations for hours and hours sometimes, where it has given me a lot of perspective on the female side of things, especially when it comes to feminism. I used to absolutely hate feminism, and I still do with a third wave feminism and what it's turned to. It's not really working for women's rights. It's only working to hate men and to take responsibility off of women. But the real feminism, where women were demanding, and are still demanding, freedom from this patriarchal society that we have, without question, especially when it comes to religion. All the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, are very patriarchal, and I understand that how easily culture can twist all of these things to make men seem like bad people in general. And I can also see women just falling into the trap of third wave feminism. Oh, you have to hate men are terrible, and this and that. I mean, I was somebody like that. I was thinking women are terrible, women are absolutely crazy, they need to give men some grace, right? Funny how things work out again. So I've changed from that. I've realized that women are human as well, that women have trauma, feelings, and all of the emotional range that men have, maybe even more. Since bipolar disorder happened to women a lot more than it happens in men, where they feel things very, very strongly, much strongly than other people. So I think generally women just feel emotions way stronger than men do. Since men are really good at repressing their emotions because society demands them to do so. So that's why they don't really, men just block the feelings, block the emotions as well, which in terms means that women are feeling things more deeply. But I can give women the grace now that, I can give them the benefit of the doubt for the most of the time. And I understand that they're human. I understand that not everybody is the same. And I understand that there are good men, there are good women, there are evil men, there are evil women, same in every gender. And it's person to person, right? How we are, what we do, what we think, how we feel. I thought for a minute I was rapping there, but it varies person to person. You can't judge somebody just like that. Which reminds me to a weird thing. I want to come back to religion. I used to judge everybody for sinning too, since in Islam a lot of the things, manly desires are very sinful, like looking at women, lustfully especially, and a lot of things like that. And I used to be very judgmental of other people, even though I was struggling with lustful eyes myself. And I realized that since God is very merciful, He's very beneficial, if I commit a sin and I realized I get some post-nut clarity, oh, what have I done? I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be hurting people. I should protect my eyes. I should protect my private parts. I should take care of myself better. I should do good things. I shouldn't do evil things. And I'll just ask God for forgiveness, and God says He does forgive you. So if God is giving me this grace, even with my flaws, can't I extend this grace to other people? Why do I have to be so judgmental all the time? Right? I'm not saying don't call evil. I call evil all the time. Right? I can call Israel evil because it's what they're doing, but I don't have to judge everybody's actions in a person-to-person in a subjective manner. Because I can give them that grace now, because I realize if God is giving me this grace, can't I just extend it to other people, right? So that's my reasoning for how I feel about people, especially women in general, where I can give everybody the benefit of the doubt until they've proven otherwise multiple times and times again. To know the backstory of somebody is very important to me, to know the emotional trauma that they've gone through to make certain choices. It's very important to me. This is why I don't take things at face value. So, that's how I feel about women. That's how I feel about people in general. So the next thing is politics and history. I used to be a really weird kid in terms of politics and history. I think it's, for the most part, really in tune with other kids as well, where they don't have to want to do anything with politics and history. I absolutely hated politics. I absolutely hated politicians. I absolutely hated when one of my parents would listen to news on the television. I was like, this is a waste of time, right? I still think news, mainstream media is a waste of time, absolutely, for everybody, since it's propaganda, nothing else. Rage baiting most of the time as well. I realize the importance of politics and history now, especially history. That to understand politics and political science, you need the knowledge of psychology, you need the knowledge of sociology, you need the knowledge of history. You need to know all of these things to understand what's happening in the world. And I find it fascinating now. When I was a kid, if my dad took me to some place and elder people would talk to each other, older people, adults were talking to each other, I just found the conversation so boring. Why aren't you talking about games? Why aren't you talking about music? Why are you talking about movies and things like that, entertaining things? And I realized that world is not just that. The world is very complex. It's politics, it's history, it's a lot of things taking place at the same time. And now I find politics and history very fascinating. I haven't studied a lot of history, but whenever I do, I find it really intriguing because it unlocks that understanding. Oh, so these people are going through this. They have gone through this. And the reason and the motivation for the things that they're doing is this. So it's very easy to understand. And I think that insight is very fascinating to me. This is why I enjoy politics and history. I even watch a lot of YouTube with that. Other than that, when I was a kid, my YouTube was all about gaming. It's all about that now. So this is also one of the big changes I've noticed. Okay, second one is something I'm still working through. It's observation. When I was a kid, I did not observe anything. I did not observe people's facial expressions. I didn't observe my surroundings. I didn't observe anything. I was crazy, I guess. Now, if I'm talking to someone, if I'm just walking around, excuse me, I would notice my surroundings with deep intensity. I notice logos, I notice graphic design, I notice designs in general, I notice dressings, I notice how people talk, I notice the mannerisms of people, so that I have a threshold to compare to when they're talking next in another setting. And this allows me to see through people if they're lying, if they're in a separate mood. Different mood would be the right word. But my observation is very strong now. And due to this, I've been able to adopt a lot of accents. I've been able to adopt and understand a lot of the patterns of English, even though it's not my first language at all. I think it all stems from observation, right? So that is also something. Next is, which is the final point I have here, is gut feeling and vibe. I've already talked about gut feeling and how you need to trust it more. But something I haven't talked about, but which I would like to talk about now, is vibe. So I believe in energy. I believe we all... my camera is saying something again. I need to check what it's saying. Right. Movie recording has been stopped automatically. Yep, thank you very much. It reached 30 minutes again, I suppose. I'll just start my camera again. No big deal. Alright. So, I believe in energy, and I think we all radiate our own energies. And I can just vibe with people based on the energy that they radiate. If it's positive energy, I would vibe with them, right? I can understand people's vibes. And I can just notice, I can just observe the vibes and energy that people give. If somebody is creepy and weird, it's so easy for me to understand that. It's so easy for me to realize, okay, this person is not freaking normal. I need to get the hell out of here, right? And also, this has translated into me kind of getting street smart a little bit. Since I've been scammed multiple times now, in terms of money, I have this understanding now that the gut feeling is always there. When you're talking to someone, and if a deal feels off, well, great. I'm going to need some water since my throat is drying out. I've been talking for an hour. Stay hydrated, kids. It's very important. Okay. Since I've been scammed multiple times now, I have this street smartness to me now, since it's stemmed a lot from the gut feeling. It took me a lot of observation and thinking to see that if a deal feels off, it's probably off, right? If something doesn't feel right, it's probably true. It's not right. If a deal feels too good to be true, it's because it's too good to be fucking true, right? So these things have made themselves clear to me, and in some time as I've grown up a little bit. If something is feeling off, I always have this gut feeling in the back of my mind. I just need to get through it. I need to focus on that feeling, and I need to realize, okay, this really isn't right. Something feels off here, so I need to yeet out of this. Alright? And that's also a really big difference. When I was a kid, I was really gullible. You could just scam me out of anything. I didn't used to think through. I didn't have this filter for bullshit. Now I can just detect bullshit, and I can just... Now the difficult part is to not smile when I detect somebody's bullshit, because it's just funny to me when someone is lying to my face, especially. I have to really just use all my muscles not to smile in front of their face and let them know that, biatch, I can just see through you. Okay, so that's also one of the bigger changes. And yeah, so that was my final point. I don't have anything written anymore. I might do a part 2 of this video in the next 5 years, maybe 10 years, where I would definitely be calling my 25-year-old self extremely freaking stupid. It's really possible. Maybe I would do a separate video of this, where I discuss things that have stayed the same, right? Things that haven't changed. Maybe I will, I don't know. But I hope that some of you resonated with this, and if you did, and if there's something that changed for you when you grew up, just list it down in the comments down below, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about more. Let's grow up together. And yeah, well, if you don't want to miss the next video, I would say subscribe. Because you never know. You never know. Enjoy.